Hi, friends. Today's guest is an international figure, and not any international figure. What gets me so excited is that this lady has many, many feats to her credit. If I start elucidating her achievements, we will probably have an entire episode talking of the many achievements she has accomplished. Dr. Elizabeth is a former Miss Hawaii. Currently, she's a Nat Geo explorer, an environmentalist, and a cultural advocate. Dr. Elizabeth Lindsey travels the world preserving wisdom and cultures. Welcome to Life Begins at 40, Dr. Elizabeth.
Thank you so much. It's such a joy to
First, to
be
do
with you.
the correct thing.
I love your focus of your podcasts and your interviews, and it was so captivating to me. So, of course, I would say yes.
I'm so touched. And for our viewers, I would also like to say that Dr. Elizabeth loves India and she travels to India quite often. Is that right?
It's absolutely true. I fell in love with India for the first time I arrived in 2009, and before the pandemic, I was traveling to India about 3 to 4 times a year, so quite often.
We look forward to having you back soon with us.
I can hardly wait. I miss India desperately.
So, shall we start with the first question?
Absolutely.
Which came naturally to me. Why Miss Hawaii and then a doctorate in anthropology?
It's a very good question, Sanjana. And I grew up with parents that were both educators. And so education in our household was truly important. And my father got very sick while I was in my first year at university. And I thought that it was too much of financial strain if I stayed in school. And so I was just about to step out, and a friend of mine said, there's this pageant that's a scholarship pageant, and you and I really have never been in a beauty pageant or around beauty pageants before, but if you enter and you simply place as a runner-up, you can earn enough money to keep yourself in school. So that was the reason that I entered the pageant to begin with. And then to continue my work in education, in studies. I've always loved anthropology. So this was a way that I could be in school, finish my education, and then continue and with my advanced degrees in anthropology. And I will always be grateful to the Miss Hawaii pageant for the scholarships that they provide young women to do just that.
That has to be the most inspirational story for the larger good of mankind, right?
It's true.
So, what keeps you driving? What drives you and keeps you going each day?
Oh, your questions are so fantastic. I love humanity so much. I think I have, from the time I was a child, all I wanted to do was love people. And so everything I do is in devotion to that. And part of my work as a National Geographic explorer, and part of the reason I come to India so frequently, is because India has so much wisdom in its culture. And there is much for the world to learn about the wisdom of these cultures, especially during these times, And so I really search the world so that I can share the wisdom of these cultures with our modern day world, especially in the West where people are struggling.
You come from a culture that has deep roots yourself, right?
Yes.
So, my next question is, how can cultures be preserved? And what are some of the richest cultures that you have seen?
Oh, oh, these are great questions. So, one of the easiest ways for cultures to be preserved is that we listen to one another deeply and especially multi-generationally and record the stories. And I remember that I spent quite a bit of time in Coimbatore, and was teaching these young children to use whatever they had and sit with their elders, with their grandparents, and with other members of their family and record the stories. And all of these children did with a simple pencil and paper. So our stories can be recorded. Luckily, we have devices in our mobile devices where we can record stories. That's the best way to preserve our cultures.
Beautiful. And some of the richest cultures you have seen.
Most definitely India. Most definitely. You know, in everything, because cultures are preserved in our chants, in our food, in our stories, in our songs. And so, even though I'm far away from India right now, I just love to watch films, that make me feel very close to India. When I was growing up in Hawaii, my elders would always say, India is our grandmother land. And so they always understood that there was wisdom that we were still connected to, even though we're halfway around the world in Hawaii, that we plant by the lunar cycles, we bless the plants and the earth and everything that we cultivate. And so when I started to travel to India and spent time in the south with the farmers, I saw that their planting practices and their traditions were very much like my elders.
We welcome the wisdom that you bring to India and the love that you bring to India. Thank
Oh,
you for that.
thank you.
So, what has been the most meaningful decade of your life, and why would you say it has been the most meaningful?
Oh, it's definitely the decade of my 60s because at 60, I met my husband and he was 65. We'd both been widowed and I was a widow and he was a widower for over 10 years. And I thought, my life has been so blessed because I had a good marriage and I have a rich circle of friends in my family. So I thought, that has been more than enough, more than I could possibly ask. And I never imagined that 10 years later, I would meet a man who's so humble and walks a very spiritual path like I do, that's devoted to the world and wants to give back. And I have to say that this decade has been because we believe in creating a spiritual tithing where a portion of everything that we do goes back to humanity. And so we're making this journey together, both of us. And so it's really a dream come true that I can be in my 60s and living my purpose to such an extent that my heart feels full every day.
How wonderful. Just talking to you is like cleaning my own energies.
Oh, truly, you're so kind.
So, okay, um, what is this special love you have for India? And what do you think India needs to do better to grow on the development graph?
That's a very good question. Let me answer your first one. Initially, what I love about India. I have to tell you, I love everything about India. As soon as I step off the plane
Yeah,
and I am, whether it's in Delhi or Chennai or Mumbai, just the smells bring me home. It's truly like I have lived lifetimes in India. And the Pandit have told me that. They've said, you have lived many times here in India and you will come back often because this is home to you. And the first time that I was in India, I didn't know Holi, but I happened to be there during Holi. And I wept. And when I got on the plane to leave, I wept like a child because I felt like I was leaving someplace that was so much a part of me. So I love every bit about India. And in answer to your second question about how we can serve, because we see that the happiness index, that India is ranked number 136. And the question becomes,
yeah.
yes, the question becomes why. You shared that beautiful index with me. And as an anthropologist, I really wanted to understand why. And maybe this is a very simple answer, but anthropology is simply about bearing witness to the world. And in that way, we are all anthropologists.
Ah,
when I look at India, I think that India actually has so much wisdom to share with the world that it should actually be leading the world in terms of its noble thought leadership. What I see within the business communities in India is oftentimes um, those leaders in India are emulating leadership in the West, almost foregoing the gifts that they have inside themselves. My feeling is if we turn the table and India shared their gifts with the world of wisdom and heritage and legacy, and actually tapped back into its own innate understanding of meditation and service and compassion, I am telling you, it would elevate India and edify India in such a way that it would be, it, India could put itself at the forefront of thought leadership around the world.
That is such a beautiful thought and objective coming from someone who appreciates the country and the culture and comes from a very rich heritage herself. You've just made it so simple.
I think all of life is simple if we can step back and not if we remove a lens of anxiety or fear, which I know is very hard right now because we're all going through really challenging times.
Yes.
But if we can step away even for a moment each day and look at life with a stillness, with a deep reflection, and almost a certain detachment, a healthy detachment, all of a sudden we can see that things become very simple. We can take what is complex in the world and make it very, very simple, almost like the innocence of a child. When children look at the world, they're very honest, but they also see things that adults sometimes overly complicate. And my feeling is maybe it's the 7-year-old in me that I want to find ways of making things simple because that's the way I can find answers and navigate life much more effectively.
Absolutely stunning. Revive the child in ourselves is what I hear from you, right? So we
It's
look
true.
with new eyes at the world. So, what have been some of the most special and heart-rending moments in your life?
Oh, I would have to say that in my childhood, I grew up in a very, very poor area, very rural area, and was surrounded by a plantation, a sugarcane plantation. And we didn't have much, but I never knew that, and that was a good thing because the elders who raised me and my parents did a beautiful job at saying, you are part of this earth, and what you bring in service to this world, you also receive. So all I knew growing up was that when my elders would go to the ocean to fish, they would always chant softly and gently and ask permission for the abundance that was in the ocean. And as a result, what they received was so abundant. And when they planted the same thing, they prayed and they blessed the land and they chanted and they used the lunar cycles for, their crops. And their crops were always abundant. And people would ask us, why do these three old women, everything they do is abundant? And I knew that it was because that everything they did was with humility and love. My feeling is we can apply these same principles to everything we do, whether it's in social media or business or our families or our communities. If it is done with love and humility, everything flourishes.
You're a living example of that. I see your LinkedIn posts and how much love and warmth they bring into the world. There's a lot
Thank
of
you.
appreciation.
It's truly a joy. I haven't used social media very much, and I'm only relatively new to LinkedIn, only a few months in. But my prayer is that I can bring joy to people. I was on LinkedIn in 2009, but never really used it properly. And I thought, wow, can you imagine if we all built a community together where we lifted another up? And that's how you and I met, was on LinkedIn. And I would invite people that are listening to come and join you and let us together build a community where we elevate and edify one another and celebrate one another.
Join you and me together, all of us together.
All of us together.
You said that you met your husband in your 60s, and those the 60s have been one of the most rewarding period of your time. Since my channel is all about life after 40, would you like to tell us a little about what happened after 40 and what are the changes? I know that you're a TEDx speaker several times over and you're invited by very many people. So did that all come into existence? Is that all of that started happening after you turned 40, or that's always been a
My
part of your life?
whole life began after 40. You know,
Wow.
I thought that when I was in my 20s, that was an important time. But I was still learning so much. And then my 30s, I thought, well, if I don't do something really important, I will have failed. It's complete nonsense.
Hmm.
Because at 40, and now I look back and I think, oh, 40 is so young. You know, 40 is a baby. But honestly, my life really didn't get started until I was well into my 40s, almost to my late 40s and early 50s, because at 50 was when I became a widow.
Oh,
And then I thought, well, what do I do with my life? You know, I had imagined that I'd be married for a very long time. So when I was widowed at 50, I thought, where do I even begin here? I mean, how do I regroup, and how do I take the first steps out? I mean, I was really quite lost and devastated at the passing of my husband. And yet, when I look back, I became a National Geographic explorer at 40.
absolutely.
I think that's when I began. My TED Talks were in my 50s. And so everything really began for me well into my 50s. But my late 40s, I began to see that I needed to make every day count. Every day had to matter. And so it was a commitment about what could I do today that could bring a smile to another person, even just one person. And then as I started to practice this, and then my husband passed away, and even though I felt so sad, what helped me get over my grief was actually caring more for other people, because it almost transferred my focus from my sorrow to others, and how I could serve others. And that really helped me a lot. So everything started long after 40. I love your focus.
You're just super kind. So from our initial chat and exchanges, I understand that you're a very private person also, and uh, you don't share a lot of your personal space with people, everybody, while you have so much love to give. So I've tried to come up with some quick fire questions, which I am hoping will give your viewers and your followers some insights into you. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So to
Sure.
start, sorry.
Yes, of course. I'm so looking forward to this.
So, what are your favorite clothes? That clothes that we can find you in all the time.
This is a very good question. And this goes back to India, actually. I learned probably one of my most profound lessons in India when I least expected it. I was in Udaipur, but I was in the outskirts of Udaipur. And I was with a translator, and we were walking along a very dusty road. And there was a woman filling a pothole on the road with cow
Hmm,
dung.
hmm.
And she was dressed in this beautiful sari. And I said to the translator, I said, she looks like a queen. And why would someone dress so beautifully to do this work? And so as we got close to her, he asked her in Hindi the question. And she looked up at us, and without hesitation, Sanjana, and even now, It's so precious a story to me. She put her hand on her heart, and in Hindi she said to him, I dress for the divine. And
Wow.
it stopped me because I thought in the West, especially in the US,
Hmm.
women dress for everyone. You know, we dress to impress, we dress to go to events, and when I'm running my errands, I'm just dressed to, get things done. But I never once thought to for the divine. And all of a sudden, this woman changed my life. So in answer to your question about clothes, regardless of the day, I begin my day with meditation, but I also begin my day with a commitment to the divine first and foremost. And so even if my clothes are simple because I'm just, working at home or running errands, I always make a point of just taking care of myself because that is a way that I serve others very quietly. And it's not to dress to impress other people, but it's to dress in honor of recognizing the divine in each person.
And you've just changed my life with that statement. Now, when I pick my clothes for the day tomorrow, I will also think of dressing for the divine. So all clothes will seem fine.
Because I'm telling you, can you imagine if you and I shared this message with other women? It would be so liberating to them. It doesn't matter how fancy an item is. It doesn't matter if it's new or not. None of that matters. What matters is the intention behind the way that we get dressed.
That's just absolutely stunning to hear. So, what would be Dr. Elizabeth's elevator spiel if she's introducing herself?
Oh, I don't know that I have a spiel, but I do know that this is my passion and my commitment to celebrate diversity and honor humanity. That is what I wish to do with my life. That every person's voice matters to me. I want to celebrate their uniqueness. I want to celebrate their voice, what they care most about. And I want to help dissolve the illusory barriers that separate us, the conflicts that are going on right now. I want to find a way to remind us all, myself included, that there was a time when there were no borders, when there was no separation. And if we can return to a place where we look at each other and see one human to another that's doing the best they can with what they have, that would be a good way to spend a life.
I'm moved by your responses.
Hmm. Thank you.
Dr. Elizabeth, I would like the world to know your values.
Oh, your questions are so magnificent. My deepest value is love. And my second deepest value is compassion. And I also love wisdom because I know that wisdom will help balance the world again when we remember our wisdom. And that's why India to me is so important, because embedded in your culture, embedded in your stories and your songs and your dance and your genealogy, your ancestry, is deep, deep wisdom that the world is starving for.
Lovely. Do you dream?
Such a great question. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. I thought at one time I would write my dreams down because it would help me remember.
Right.
And I remember seeing this question. I knew I was going to speak with you today. And last night, for the first time in quite a while, I had a dream and I thought maybe it's because I'm going to be speaking to Sanjana.
How wonderful. I hope it was a good dream.
It was a beautiful dream.
Wonderful. I hope you have many more of good dreams.
Thank you.
Do you have any fears? And if yes, what is your biggest fear?
Oh, I do have fears. My biggest fear is that I place the greatest limitations that I face are the limitations that I place on myself. And my fear is that I will not live the fullest expression of my life because of these limitations. So my prayer is to look at what those limitations are and know that they are simply a story and I can rewrite the story at any moment.
Lovely. And on the other side, what brings you the most joy?
Oh, the most joy is loving the world, truly. That is the greatest joy of all, just to love people. It's funny because there's a part of me that's a bit shy, and most people wouldn't know it. And so there's that interesting part of me where I go into a room of people and I'll feel a bit shy immediately, or even coming onto a podcast. I want so much to offer anything I can to be of service to you. And so that helps me get over my shyness, is to just, my father always said when we were growing up, if you feel shy at all, when you go into a room of others, imagine that you are inviting them into your home, and that will get you over your shyness. So I always think of that.
And what a fabulous job you do.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Nicole. So, who do you feel closest to?
Oh, closest to, there's so many people. I feel close to you right now for sure. My heart is just so close to you. I
Hmm.
would say that in my life, it would be my husband because, when we met at this stage of life, we both knew how blessed we were to have found each other. And we're so much alike in so many ways. And especially during the pandemic where we've been sequestered, you know, I realized that I have my best friend with me, and I couldn't ask for any more than that.
Lovely. Is he at home currently? And I hope he's listening to
He's at home. He's in his office right now, but
you.
I'm so excited to share this interview with him.
So am I. So, family or friends?
Family and friends. We have two grandchildren, and I have my family in Hawaii. They're quite far away because I'm on the East Coast in the US, but very, very close. We're in touch constantly. So, I feel that this is a very rich life. And even beyond my biological family, in many ways, I feel like the whole world is my family, and wherever I land, I feel I'm home. So, that is a gift.
So, a question that was not part of what I had thought of initially is that you explore other cultures, you talk to them, connect with them. What are the challenges you face? How do you get people to embrace you, absolute, complete strangers to embrace you?
Oh, excellent question. Excellent. When I'm with elders, when I actually go into the field to be with elders,
Right.
especially the oldest ones and the ones who have a keen inner vision, they are always reading people. My mentors did this. They
Mm.
would sit with you and they would just read you as if they're reading your heart. And my Hawaiian name means the heart of heaven. So I love that people would do that because I want people to be very discerning when they're sharing such precious wisdom, you know? And so what I do is I actually sit quietly and always out of respect, I always ask permission when I arrive in a new country that I ask permission to be there. It's like coming into someone's home. You would never enter without asking permission to be there. And I always walk very, very gently when I'm in a new country and a new culture.
Interesting. And that has got you into the hearts of people, and with elders sharing insights about their culture and
Yes.
their history, right?
Yes. And like you, I mean, you're a very, very good listener. You're just so keen. And because you listen so deeply, you're able to ask questions. And I really believe that that is the secret, that we must listen to one another so deeply that we not only listen to their words, but we listen to their hearts to what they're not saying. Because, you know, I imagine that you've been doing this so masterfully that it is a skill in you that comes very naturally to you, that you listen, but you also feel how people are feeling. And when we can do that, the whole world becomes our family and our community.
Lovely thought. What is
Thank
your
you.
favorite drink? A drink
My
that,
favorite,
like, yeah, first thing.
my favorite drink, you're gonna laugh. It's warm water with lemon. It's very boring, but that is my favorite drink.
I think it's excellent. It sounds absolutely fabulous because it is the healthiest drink too, and I think that explains your lovely skin and your youthful appearance.
You humble me.
It's the most thrilling adventure.
The most thrilling adventure I've ever had. I traveled to the Andaman Sea, which is south of Thailand and Myanmar, to live with sea nomads on the ocean. So I lived with them on their boats because they are born on the ocean. They're nomads of the sea. And during the 2004 tsunami that devastated South Asia, I mean, it was so, so devastating on so many levels. This small tribe of people never sustained any injury at all, and I really wanted to understand why. And so I traveled there to be with them, and it was quite extraordinary.
Absolutely, it is. It sounds out of this world. It's like, are they aliens or are they humans?
It was out of this world to live with them, truly, truly. And in the Andaman Sea, there are lots of pirates, so it was a very exciting time.
That's how you look at it. I would probably have died of fear, passed on to the other realm, so to say. So, what is happiness for you?
Happiness is being with someone like you, having a conversation that's meaningful and rich, and then sharing this with others. Honestly, this brings me so much joy, you have no idea.
Wonderful. The joy is shared. So, what are the age group? What is the age group that you most relate to?
Wow, what an amazing question, because sometimes I feel like I really relate to 5-year-olds very nicely, more than any group. And then at other times, I feel like the last woman that I interviewed was 114 years old, and I felt so close to
Oh,
her. So I run the gamut between 5-year-olds and 114.
it says a lot about you. Your heart chakra is definitely, expanded, open, and sharing warmth.
So grateful.
So this sounds redundant after talking about your heart chakra, but is the world connected, and how is it connected?
Yes, and it's actually a beautiful follow-up question. It's so perfect.
Hmm,
The world is connected. We always imagine, I mean, we live in such a fortunate time that we have the kind of technology that you're in India and I'm here in Florida, and you and I are speaking in real time, and then you'll be able to share this. So, such a blessing to be connected in this way. I think an even deeper connection is to actually, again, listen so deeply, because I think that we have um, there's a lot of noise out there and a lot of things that lack meaning, and people, a lot of people are feeling very isolated, and mental well-being is a top issue for so many people. So your interviews, Sanjana, and your questions really bring us home to what matters most. The kinds of thought-provoking inquiry that you offer allows us to think about our own lives and how we can make contribution, how we can use our lives. This is the way that we can reconnect with one another, using technology plus the kind of thoughtfulness that gives our life meaning. And so I really acknowledge you for that.
What I am trying to do would be so not possible, incomplete, totally incomplete, and unsustainable without wonderful human beings like yourself.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
My last request,
Yes.
while thanking you for your time and talking to me across what we in India say seven seas in real time, is what is a message that you would like to leave Life Begins at 40 viewers with?
Oh, beautiful question. To believe in ourselves at any age. It's never too late. It is absolutely never too late. And I speak from firsthand experience because my life really only got started at 50. And I now see, I used to worry that maybe I was such a late bloomer that nothing would happen. And I find next week is my birthday, and I find that every year is getting better and better and better. I can hardly wait until I'm in my 80s and 90s. So, in that respect, I'm just a young kid at this point in my 60s. And I thank you, Sanjana, for just the most the most fun and joyous interview I've had. And I just really would love to support you in any way I can. Anytime you'd like to have more conversations, you just call on me.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to you for that. Thank you for your offer because time is the most precious thing we can offer anyone, right?
It's really
And
true.
I deeply appreciate your offering that. And for your birthday, I hope your life blossoms even more, manifold. So the fragrance of your love reaches far and wide and transforms lives,
Oh, thank you. Well,
right?
you know, thank you, my friend.
So thank you so much, Dr. Elizabeth, for sharing your life.